We are going to collate some of the best reasons why immigration is important and actually a benefit to the United States. We will draw from data over the past 75 years to show why America needs immigrants and what happens when there are not enough immigrants coming into the country. Now, this is an emotionally charged topic for many people. There are those who say that immigrants take jobs away from American citizens, or they say that immigrants commit crimes at higher rates than native-born Americans. But most of these claims don't hold up to scrutiny. And we're going to look at some of that data in today's video. We're going to start by looking at a report put out by the Center for American Progress. It focuses on contributions made by immigrants to the U.S. economy over the past 40 years. The report was published in April of 2019. It states that immigrants have contributed nearly $6 trillion to the U.S. economy since 1990 through their work and by starting businesses. According to the report, immigrants account for nearly 1 in 5 new businesses created in the U.S. economy since 1990, including 1 out of 4 of the new businesses that are high-growth firms with employees. The report also says that immigrants are 50% more likely than native-born workers to start a business, and that immigrants accounted for nearly half of all new entrepreneurs in the United States between 2005 and 2015. According to the report, immigrants pay taxes and use public services like all other Americans. Immigrants also have started almost all of the major U.S. companies based on the number of patents granted over the past several decades. This list includes Google, Intel, Microsoft, Tesla, eBay, PayPal, Amazon, among others. Many immigrants come to the United States seeking asylum because they fear for their lives back home. Some come to the United States because they want better opportunities for themselves and their family. They contribute greatly to the U.S. economy. But let's look at a study done by the Cato Institute. It takes a slightly longer view than the one we just mentioned. It looks at immigrants over the past 75 years. The report is called The Economic Impact of Immigrants in America, a Historical Perspective. Let's look at some of its key findings. Between 1946 and 2018, the foreign-born population in the United States grew from 10 million to 56 million. The report says immigrants have always been part of the U.S. story, with the first immigrants arriving in the early 1600s. But the largest increases in the foreign-born population happened in 3 waves. The first wave happened after the Second World War. Between 1946 and 1960, the United States admitted a total of almost 15 million immigrants. This was due largely to a desire to help rebuild Europe after the devastation of the war. This included admitting refugees from Europe, many of whom were Jewish and had survived concentration camps. The second wave was in the 1970s and 80s. The report says the refugee outflow from Vietnam, Cambodia, and other countries during and after the war in Southeast Asia drove the increase in the number of immigrants to the United States. The third wave began in the 1990s. This report says the relaxation of immigration laws in the mid-1990s allowed more immigrants to enter the country legally. Many immigrants have come to the United States fleeing civil war or violence. Others came in search of economic opportunity. Now let's look at some of the report's key findings. In each decade since 1946, immigrants have boosted U.S. economic output more than native-born citizens, and legal immigrants have paid more in taxes than they have received in public services. The report says that immigrants are not a drain on public resources. They are assets. While some receive public assistance, most immigrants who are eligible for public assistance choose not to use it. Those that do use public assistance programs generally spend less than $1,000 per year. Let's look at some more of the key findings. From 1946 to 2018, the total output produced by immigrants increased from about $300 billion to over $3 trillion. When the researchers controlled for education and experience, they found that immigrants actually had higher earnings than native-born workers. Let's look at how the number of immigrants has affected unemployment rates. It turns out that increasing the number of immigrants in the country actually decreases unemployment rates. During the period studied, the researchers found that an increase of 1% in the immigrant population led to a 0.4% decrease in unemployment. From 1946 to 2018, the total output produced by immigrants increased from about $300 billion to over $3 trillion. The authors conclude that the net impact of immigration on native workers' wages is positive. They say that immigrants complement rather than compete with native workers, and they say that immigrants are a net fiscal benefit to the country. Here's another interesting finding. You may have heard that immigrants are more likely to commit crimes than native-born Americans. This study doesn't support that claim. The authors say that while crime rates among immigrants are higher than those among native-born workers, that gap has been shrinking. So we've shared two studies with you. Both show that immigrants are a benefit to the United States, not a burden. Now let's look at some potential consequences of not having enough immigrants in the United States. In 2019, the United States experienced a labor shortage crisis in agriculture. Farmers said that they couldn't find enough workers to pick crops like strawberries and lettuce. Farmers ended up leaving crops in the fields and rotting because they couldn't find enough workers to harvest them. On top of that, the US economy shrank for the first time since 2015. Part of that was because of the labor shortage. Businesses across the country were struggling to find workers. Some had to close their doors because they couldn't find enough employees. If this sounds familiar, it should. The US is experiencing a similar situation right now. Restaurants and hotels are struggling to find workers. Across the country, employers are raising wages in an effort to attract workers. One group that's particularly hard hit is the restaurant industry. Restaurants are struggling to find servers, cooks, and dishwashers. Right now, about 750,000 restaurant jobs are open across the country. The industry is facing a worker shortage of about 24%. One restaurant owner told us that he can't find enough workers to staff his restaurants. He's raised wages, but still he can't find enough applicants. In recent weeks, several restaurants owned by celebrity chef Tyler Florence have closed down because of the labor shortage. Some economists are blaming the lack of immigration for the labor shortages. Between 2005 and 2010, the number of immigrant workers in the country fell 4%, while the number of native-born workers only fell 0.4%. A study released last year blamed a combination of factors for the drop in immigrant workers. Those include stricter immigration policies, a weak economy, and the aging of the immigrant population. A separate study released in 2018 blames the drop in immigration on policy changes. This brings us to an important point. Every time the United States has experienced a labor shortage crisis, immigrants have stepped up to fill the void. After the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, many people were afraid that the US would see fewer immigrants. In fact, the opposite happened. Between 2002 and 2015, the number of immigrants in the country grew by 40%. Many of them filled jobs that few native-born Americans wanted. Since the Great Recession, immigrants have filled job openings in construction, healthcare, and technology. Without them, the US economy might have looked very different. Over the past 75 years, immigrants have helped build America. They've started companies, they've paid taxes, and they've taken jobs that many native-born Americans don't want. Perhaps most importantly, they've added diversity to the United States. Diversity makes our country stronger. It allows us to come together and learn from one another. Our differences enrich our country. Thank you for watching this video.